frustration, George. This is why I bring this up because I wanted to pivot to this next topic here that is intertwined with what we're talking about here. Go ahead, OG. I believe we have something to kind of clarify this point here. Thank you, sir. If you see here, this is very interesting because I've noticed that the vloggers that are in the park, their numbers have kind of gone down, and I wanted to know if that was a trend that we could kind of graph and kind of see. And if you look here, this is a mixture of California and Florida vloggers, so some of the patterns that you're seeing here are reflective of that. Obviously, the parks open at different times. One of the major park openings was April 30th, right for Disneyland. I believe Walt Disney World opened in June or July of
July 11th.
2020. Right. So that's why you see some of these patterns fluctuating. But it's very interesting. You can kind of line it up to about October 2021. If you see right here around September, they all seem to spike, or at least a considerable amount of them. And then they go back down to even a lot of them to their previous. They were pretty steady before, but they actually dipped down to their previous state of steadiness before the pandy. And I do wonder, and the people who buck this trend are the people who diversified out of kind of Disney only content. We saw that with maybe Adam the Woo, where he, kind of famously said, "Hey, I'm not going to Disney back. I'm not going back to Disney anymore. At least it'll be semi-regular, right? It'll be very inconsistent." We've seen some other vloggers out there who have diversified their content away from Disney, and they actually bucked this trend. But the people who went hard into Disney, we're seeing a gradual decline. And from my perspective, what I believe to be the case of what's happening here is that the brand might be being tarnished to a point where anybody talking about it, anybody kind of, associating themselves with it, is being hurt themselves. What do you guys think on this?
I think it's very interesting that you brought this topic up because I've been thinking about this for quite some time now, but just didn't really think nothing of it to even mention about it. But I've noticed a pattern with a lot of the vloggers that when one does a particular video on a subject matter, for instance, staying at a DVC resort, shortly after, you'll see many more do DVC resort stays that they've never done before. But after, just because that one vlogger did it, it moved to the trend. Now, as far as moving away from Disney, and I have to mention them, and it's no disrespect to anybody of the vloggers out there, this is just plain straight fact that I'm just throwing it out there. Sure. When Adam the Woo first mentioned that he was going to kind of take a break from going to the parks as far as with vlogging goes, Michael K did the same exact thing, where he is now at the parks, but more so he doesn't do his regular daily vlogs like he used to. Now he's moving on to, he did a vlog with the opening of Peppa Pig, the Peppa Pig theme park. Yeah. He's now on Royal Caribbean doing a vlog. And what I find funny was right after finding about Michael K on the Royal Caribbean, Kyle Paolo, if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, I forgive me if I botched your last name. He is now on Royal Caribbean. So is that a coincidence that they both are big time Florida vloggers, but there's nothing special going on Royal Caribbean? It's just taking a Royal Caribbean cruise. So is there a pattern there?
I think there is.
There is a pattern. There is a pattern. I think this is a fascinating topic because I think it's multi-layered. I think, Dre, you're absolutely right in that I think people are just exhausted by Disney in general and just vlogging about it and everything, right? I also think there's an element here, and this is why I have to be completely honest. I never really got into like the in-park vlog thing. Like when I started my channel, like my big inspirations have had nothing to do with park vloggers at all. I was watching Jedi Council on Collider, huge fan of Christian Harloff, John Campia, creators like that. Those were the creators that inspired me to start my channel, not one park vlogger. And the thing with the park vlogging community is that George touched upon it. It's very trendy. So one person does it and they all fucking do it. It's like one person goes to the park and tries the new churro, and then you have every channel under the sun reviewing the same churro, and it's boring. Yeah. And like you said, George, it's like Michael K, I think you said, was doing what, Princess Cruise Lines? Royal Caribbean. And then they all started doing them. It's like, oh God, there's no creativity there. So I think it's multi-layered. I think there is an element here where Disney is sort of exhausting people out, with the parks. And I think just the community, the infighting, things like that, it's exhausting. People want to break away from it. I know Adam the Woo has had a lot of personal issues in terms of like getting attacked on his channel with his like fiance or girlfriend, and a lot of people didn't like her or something. It was like a lot of drama, and that there's no excuse for that. That's his personal life, Yeah. But I think that was a part of him stepping back too. I think that in combination with just Disney being a more exhaustive thing, getting reservations going into, and just the whole shtick. The whole vlogger stick of going to the parks, I think, is kind of getting worn out. So there's a lot of elements here, I think, that are contributing to these numbers. So it's fascinating, though, to watch this. Absolutely fascinating.
And I also feel, too, that these vloggers are now, they were so depending on Disney because it was like, okay, so we do this and we get media passes and we get these special, arrangements by Disney and what have you. Well, now I think they're starting to really see that Disney's kind of cutting back on the number of vloggers that they're using for these special events. And when speaking with day-to-day vloggers at Walt Disney World or Disneyland, they're locals. What is Disney trying to eliminate as far as the annual passes? And these vloggers can't get in at the times that they want to. Why? Because they don't really spend money. I'm sorry, they don't. They go in, they film a video, they're there for maybe a couple hours, and they leave. Yeah. As a company or an even consumer, Disney is not making any revenue on that because they're not spending. They're more so there for themselves to make a video because that's their source of income. But it's not really doing anything for Disney.
No, it's not.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was going to say, no, it's not. And the thing too is, I see a lot of vloggers bragging about, I'll never do the upcharge events, and I bring my own food into the parks, and this, that, and the other. And that's exactly why Disney is like what George was just saying. That's exactly why Disney is trying to separate themselves from that whole locals market, because that locals market, like you said, George, they go in for 2 hours, they watch fireworks, they bring their own lunch or dinner, and they leave. Right. That doesn't do Disney any good, because at that point, you're a body in the park taking up space. Hate to say it, but that's the truth, where you're taking up a spot for a person who could have spent 3 and 4 days there from Oklahoma and spent a lot more money. And so that's definitely an aspect. Absolutely.
It is the harsh reality of that kind of business, right? You have such a supply limited business. No matter how many staff you have or how many rides you build, there's always going to be a limitation, and everybody wants to go there at the same time, and you have to parse that out. Who do you prioritize as getting access to the park? And it's a really interesting thing. The vloggers, I think they contribute to Disney's bottom line. I think they encourage sales. I think they encourage vacation bookings. So my kind of way of doing this right here would be, could we offer like a vlogger pass? After you get to a certain metric that Disney decides, maybe they offer you a vlogger pass where you can kind of go more regularly, and that way you can gain access while also kind of pitching the brand. But like I said, though, the brand might be taking a hit. I've heard from a lot of people recently. A lot of people. I mean, I'm part of huge chats. I'm part of a lot of groups that kind of talk about this stuff regularly, both from kind of our perspective, more fan-oriented perspective, and from kind of a normie guest perspective, right? Moms and so forth, and a lot of people, overwhelmingly, they're getting burnt out on Disney, and they're going to other places, and they're trying new things. And like you said, when Michael K leaves and when Adam the Woo leaves and they're trying new things, well, people want to try those things too. So they disassociate with the brand as a result.